Welcome back, deep divers. Today, we're going deep, really deep into William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist.
Oh, a classic.
Definitely classic. And we've got some special excerpts from the 40th anniversary edition, ready to really unpack what makes this story stick with you, even after, what, almost 50 years?
Yeah, it's incredible how it still resonates.
It really is. So ready to dive in?
Absolutely, let's do it.
All right. So Blatty kicks things off in, of all places, Iraq. An archaeological dig, some ancient evil unearthed.
Right, sets the stage, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But then, boom, we're in Georgetown.
Yeah.
Very modern, very recognizable.
It's that contrast, that jarring shift that I think really makes it work. Like, evil doesn't stay buried in the past. It's right here, right now, potentially in our own backyards.
Look, the McNeil family.
Yeah.
On the surface, pretty normal, right?
Yeah.
Famous actress mom, dealing with a divorce.
Yeah, Chris is busy with her career. Regan's a typical kid. 12 years old, playing with a Ouija board.
Ah, the Ouija board.
Yeah.
Never a good sign in a horror story.
Never. But it's relatable. Right. Regan's trying to cope with her parents' split, maybe reaching out, looking for answers.
But then things get creepy. Remember that scratching in the attic? Everyone just assumes it's rats.
Oh, yeah. Classic horror movie trope. But Blatty uses it so well, that constant unease, something lurking just out of sight.
Yeah, like a shadow slowly growing. And we see it in Regan, too. Her behavior starts changing. Foul language, sleepwalking, bedwetting even.
It's so disturbing because she's just a kid, that innocence being twisted, corrupted.
And the physical stuff, too. Regan being thrown around her room. You can't help but imagine this unseen force, like something beyond our comprehension.
It really makes you question what's real, what's possible, especially when you get to those early scenes with the doctors.
Yeah, they're baffled. All these tests, they think maybe epilepsy, maybe psychological trauma, but nothing adds up.
Like Regan's illness is mocking their science, their logic.
Which is probably why Chris starts to consider, well, the unthinkable, demonic possession.
It's a last resort, right? Especially for Chris, who's an atheist.
Oh yeah, at first she's totally resistant. But as things get worse and the doctors can't help, that desperation sets in.
And then there's that book. The one on demonology just appearing in Regan's room.
Chilling. Was it planted? Did it just materialize out of thin air? Blatty leaves you wondering.
And that's what makes it so effective. It messes with your head. Is this real? Are we seeing something supernatural?
Makes you think, where would you draw the line? If you were in Chris's shoes, at what point would you start to consider the impossible?
It's a tough question. And it's not just Chris grappling with this. We have Father Karras, too. A Jesuit priest and a psychiatrist.
Yeah, so he's coming at this from both sides, faith and science.
Exactly. Initially, he's skeptical, tries to explain everything rationally.
But even he starts to have doubts, right? Especially after seeing Regan, hearing that voice coming from her.
That voice? So creepy. It's like pure evil, mocking everything Karras believes in.
It's such a fascinating internal conflict. Faith versus reason. And I think it's something a lot of people can relate to.
Absolutely. We all have our beliefs, our ways of understanding the world. But what happens when we encounter something that just doesn't fit?
That's what Blatty is exploring here.
Yeah.
And he doesn't give us easy answers. He makes us confront those uncomfortable possibilities, the things we can't explain.
And speaking of things we can't explain, let's not forget Brooke Dennings.
Right. The film director, friend of Chris's. He falls down those steps outside her house, and it's just another layer of mystery.
And then we have Lieutenant Kinderman investigating, this homicide detective who's very methodical, very sharp.
Yeah, he's not so quick to dismiss foul play. You can tell he thinks something's off.
He's picking up on those same vibes, that sense of evil lurking beneath the surface. And it makes you wonder, could Dennings' death be connected to what's happening with Regan?
It's a question that really hangs over everything. Like, are all these events linked somehow? Is there some larger force at play?
It's masterful how Blatty weaves it all together. The possession, the death, Karras' struggle. You're constantly trying to piece it all together, make sense of it.
And that's where we'll pick up next time as we delve deeper into the investigation, those chilling tapes Karras makes. And finally, meet the exorcist himself, Father Merrin.
It's gonna get intense.
You definitely don't want to miss it.
When Father Merrin arrives, man, the whole atmosphere shifts, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You get this sense of, like, ancient wisdom, like he's been battling evil for centuries.
Exactly. And Regan, or I guess the demon, senses it too, right?
Yeah, that part where she screams his name before even seeing him. bone-chilling.
Total goosebumps. Blatty knows how to tap into those primal fears. Like, what is it about names, you know?
Yeah, it's like this recognition, this ancient evil meeting its match.
The calm before the storm, you know?
Oh, and what a storm it is. That exorcism scene, I mean, just brutal.
Yeah, it's not just the physical stuff, though. It's the words, the violation of her spirit, you know?
It's like you really feel for Chris, watching her daughter go through that completely helpless.
But it's not just Reagan suffering, right? I mean, Marin, Karis, they're pushed to their limits, too.
Yet you really see the toll it takes on everyone. The physical, emotional, spiritual exhaustion.
Marin, he's old, he's tired. You get the sense this is one battle too many, maybe.
And Karras is dealing with his own demons the whole time, right? His faith is shaken. He's questioning everything.
He represents that struggle so well. Like, what happens when your whole worldview gets flipped upside down?
Yeah, he's forced to choose science or faith.
Yeah.
And in the end, it's his love for Reagan that drives him.
That moment when he taunts the demon, begging it to take him instead. Heartbreaking.
But also incredibly powerful. It shows that even in the face of this pure evil, there's still room for love, for sacrifice.
And those parallels, right. Denning's death, Karis' fate, both found at the bottom of those steps.
It's like the evil followed them, like a curse.
Makes you wonder if some things are just beyond our control, beyond our understanding.
Yeah, and then you have the aftermath. Chris and Reagan leaving Georgetown, trying to pick up the pieces.
You know they're going to carry that trauma with them forever. But there's also that sense of hope, right?
Yeah, they survive. They're strong. And Father Dyer, he's there the whole time, that steady presence.
That unwavering faith, that compassion, it's like a reminder that even in the darkest times, there's still good in the world.
But still, the ending is so ambiguous. Those unanswered questions, that lingering unease.
That's what makes Blatty so brilliant. He doesn't wrap everything up neatly. He leaves you thinking, questioning.
It's what elevates it beyond just a horror story, right? It becomes this exploration of faith, of doubt, of the human condition.
I think we'll get even deeper into that in part 3. How The Exorcist continues to impact us. Those big questions it raises about belief, evil, and the resilience of the human spirit.
That whole question of mental illness versus, the supernatural, it really makes you think.
Right. Like how much of what we see happening to Reagan could be explained psychologically.
Exactly. The doctors consider those possibilities, right?
Yeah.
Stress, trauma, maybe something deeper we don't even see.
Conversion hysteria, even. It was a catch-all back then, especially for women exhibiting unusual behaviors.
Makes you wonder how many cases throughout history might have been, misdiagnosed.
Oh, for sure. And Blatty plays with that, right? He gives you those rational explanations, but then throws in these details that just don't fit.
The bed-shaking Regan speaking languages she's never learned. There's got to be more to it than just psychology.
And that voice. I mean, come on. Spewing those blasphemies, taunting Karis. It's pure evil.
It's hard to deny something supernatural is happening. But even then you have to wonder, how much control does Regan actually have?
Right. Is she a victim, totally helpless? Or is there a part of her somewhere fighting back?
It makes you think about identity, like what defines us, what happens when something tries to take that away.
And it all ties into belief, right? Both Chris and Karis, they wrestle with their faith.
It's funny, Chris, the atheist, is the most resistant at first, but as things get worse, she has to face those limits of her own worldview.
And Karis, the priest, is almost tempted by the darkness, you know? It's his love for Reagan that saves him, I think.
It's like Blatty is saying belief itself, whether in God or the devil, has this power to shape reality.
Our deepest convictions, even our fears, they can become like entry points for something bigger than ourselves.
So it comes back to that question, right? Where would you draw the line?
If you were faced with something truly unexplainable, would you embrace the supernatural or hold on to those scientific comforts?
It's tough. No easy answers.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of this book, right? It makes you think, makes you question.
Great literature does that, yeah. It sticks with you, makes you see the world differently.
The Exorcist, it's horror, sure, but it's also so much more. It's about those big questions: faith, doubt, good, evil, trying to find meaning when everything's upside down.
And maybe that's why it still resonates. It taps into that primal fear, that darkness we all kind of sense just out of reach.
So to our listeners out there, keep exploring those big questions, keep those minds open, and maybe keep a nightlight on just in case.
Yeah, you never know.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive, everyone. Until next time, keep reading, keep thinking, and we'll see you on the next Deep Dive.